Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Detour. Back to our normal time, 7:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time. Could change tomorrow, we don't know, but we're going to try and be consistent. It's a massive night of cycling here in Australia. There's a lot to unpack. I'm joined, as always, by four-time national road champion Johnny Trevorrow, Olympic gold medalist Scott McGrory. Scotty, you've delivered this time. We've got a big guest that we're going to open the batting with.
Yeah, fantastic to actually get inside one of the winning teams of the Giro d'Italia with, of course, the former Australian road champion Miles Scotson. And he's with Groupama FDJ, doing a great job for Arnold Demar. So welcome to you, Miles.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
G'day, Miles. Thanks for coming on board, mate. Fantastic to hear from you, bud.
First question, mate. How long have you been up? Because it is, of course, the rest day, second rest day at the Giro d'Italia. So you normally get to sleep in, but we've got you up and about, mate, doing media straight away. When'd you get up?
1 hour ago, got up at 9:30, so managed a good sleep. Good and need it. We got some really early starts this week. I think tomorrow will be up at 7 a.m.
There must be pretty big buzz in the team, mate. It's been an amazing Giro so far with 4 stage wins with Demar. What's the vibe like on the bus?
Yeah, everyone's actually pretty relaxed, but yeah, super nice atmosphere. I was looking around last night. I kind of had some bottles of wine that Arno had ordered for staff riders. Everyone was just relaxed. So, I mean, we've got one more stage to go for now, but wow, pretty much we'd already achieved. But if that point's just a win, yeah, that would be unbelievable.
I was going to say, Miles, it's been fantastic watching what you're doing, and you're very much a part of that important lead out for Demar. Can you just take us through what it's like when you're approaching the last 10K, even though you've had plenty to do before that, but when you know it's going to be a bunch finish, the nerves and what you do?
Yeah, well, this was the first year I really had a bigger role in lead out, and as we've gone along since August, it's just become more and more important. I felt my role, and normally I go third to last guy, but here with one guy, he's out the tour now. He wasn't quite at his normal level. And Cinco de Mayo, I kind of took his place to do that last kilometre. But yeah, I mean, we've been nailing the lead outs every race this year. I think we barely missed one. But I feel more stress and more pressure every time. We already won 3 stages, and the stage this week where we had bought. I was so stressed. 5K to go, trying to stay calm, but I just just have this thing in your head. Oh, we're going to get blocked. We're not going to hit the front. We're not going to hit the front. Yeah, it's a stress. I think in sprint trains though, compared to climbing, you got that build up of adrenaline. Nerves when you pull it off. I don't know because I'm not riding in a GC team, but I reckon it must be a better feeling than, kind of pulling for 100K and then you climb a win and you arrive 20 minutes after. To me, I really enjoy that, the anxiousness of the sprint train.
Do you have to show a bit of prick in those finals as well? Like, as you said, guys are trying to bump you off your wheel. Do you get sharpen the elbows up and stand your ground?
Yeah, I have this feeling you see other sprint teams, some of their lead out guys are more worried about trying to, how do I say, block you or screw up your trainer. I always try to think about Arno giving him a good ride and a clean ride to the finish. But after stage 4, actually, we were celebrating after line there, and I turned around and there was Ilya Kies waiting from Quickstep, waiting for me to finish celebrating, to have words with me. Apparently I nearly crashed Quickstep in one where you had always tight corners and we were really diving on an inside, and in the race everyone's just trying to do their job. It's never you're trying to, for me anyway, it's never I'm trying to flick anyone, but when you're going for wins and it's at the Giro, big target for Demar, I absolutely cannot back out if there's another team kind of in the way.
So did you calm him down or just snap him one?
I I mean, I no, I kind of try to play the nice guy because you don't want to get too many enemies in the peloton. And I just agreed with him, whether I agreed or not. I just agreed and apologized and tried to cool the situation a bit. Yeah, I mean, I was in a good mood anyway. Really, I didn't give a shit because we were just
love it.
It's good to hear that there's still a few grumpy old men in the peloton. So yeah, I know Elio really well from back when he first started in the 6 days. So it'd be interesting maybe to have a conversation offline just to find out exactly what words were said between you two. Hey, what I find really interesting what you said before though is how getting these wins and you get the lead out train sorted really well. Arnold gets the wins and before the Giro, he was in such incredible form this season. It's been amazing. So you get the confidence from his wins, but with that builds the pressure that you have to get it right each time. I think that's a really unique or quite an interesting observation to hear you say that the confidence is great, but then that builds more pressure. But you're obviously coping with that and your role within that team. What language are you guys talking to each other in the lead out?
Well, I mean, yeah, Arno, obviously he's speaking a little bit of English now. My French is not super good. And the other lead out guys who have been in the team longer than me are speaking good French. So I think coming into those finals, it's actually Arno is saying nothing. He is really just, he puts the guy behind me, Garnieri, for us, he's running the show. He's making the plans. This is how it's going to be today, and Arno's just following. He doesn't really have a say, and everything coming back to me in those last kilometers is coming from Jacopo, and then I'm normally yelling to. Here it's been Konolovas, the Lithuanian, in front of me. So the language is actually English because Arno's not saying anything. So he's just hearing three guys yelling. English.
How important, mate, is chemistry in that train? Like, you want to have a relationship where you want to bury yourself, and you're essentially taking big risks in those finals for your leader. He must have a lot of respect in your team.
Yeah, I mean, the guys, they had their train going for a couple of years with Sinquidam and Garnieri. Both were lead-out man elsewhere. Like, Garnieri was last man for Christoph when Christoph was flying at Katusha, and Sinquidam was with Degenkolb at Sunweb or whatever they were called beforehand. And it kind of brought me into the train, and really, I mean, motivated me. Like, we can do a lot. We can really good train. Not a lot of teams are emphasizing like sprint trains anymore. It's all GC based. I mean, if you think back, like HCC, Lotto, they really had like big proper sprint trains, and I think that's what they tried to build here. So and as we're going along, then I mean, I have like 100% trust. So just always listening and learning to the other guys in the train, and now I guess I have more responsibility myself. But yeah, and they also need to trust me, and that's taken a few races now. And now I think it's 100%. But you can imagine if you're in your 30s, you've been doing it for years, and you got some 26-year-old, then it's not always been leading out. Whether they want to always follow me through that corner. Well, actually, that happened on the fourth stage, Arno's first, when we went into the corner, and I think Jacopo went, "Oh, he's going too quick here," and he let the gap go, and that's where I go away on that occasion, and I had to make a decision there that I can't wait for him to get too big, and I just tried myself to make other team chase. But that was probably a moment also where coming into that last corner, there was like not 100% trust, I think.
It's like the last corner in the criteria, mate. Aussie track skills, well done.
Yeah.
Just a quick now. The amazing thing is, you've won 4 stages, sensational, and yet you're only 30-something points in front for the points race from Sagan. So, because he's a frustrating bugger, he really never gives in, does he? And that stage that he won the other day was staggering. So. I know you with one stage to go, one real sprint stage where you're going to put it all on the line. But with Sagan, you're never really completely comfortable, are you?
No, I mean, we go into the mountain days just like pretty much getting ready for a long day, just get through with Arno. But then there's always like, you go to do the meeting, there's a sprint bonus at this kilometer. We have to watch for Sagan going in the break. And like, if he really wants to, he can really climb. And yeah, there was a stage which he won. I think he would have won in any shape or form that day. I mean, he went into the break. Arno was dropped out the back. We brought it back to the peloton. We saw, and we just went, we couldn't close. And the break was way too strong. Even if we did bring it back, I think he still would have won the stage. I mean, he's a rider, and he can climb, he can do anything, and yeah, I mean, possible last week, and sometimes there's no answer. If we hit a climb early on and he jump in the breakaway and we can't follow, there's not much you can do. So
No.
yeah.
We're getting a few comments. We're getting a few
go for
comments coming in. Samantha says, had an unexpected chat to Miles's mum at the TDU a few years ago. She's very proud of her boys. And then Betty Jensen says, on your Miles. So there's a lot of support coming through, mate. What were you going to say, Scotty?
I was going to say, look, the Giro's notorious for having big transfers, so lots of miles in between stages, so to speak. Pardon the pun. But how are you finding it? Obviously, it's challenging this year, even more challenging because of the COVID situation. But overall, how is the Giro?
It's been okay so far, but I mean, I don't probably in this last week. I don't think it's going to be possible to run the stages as they are. But the last week is massive. I mean, tomorrow we have 220 kilometer over 230 kilometer stage. We have an hour and a half to drive in the bus to start. The stage is starting at 10:10 because we have to be finished before dark. I mean, it's not like in May. I mean, it's getting darker early now. And then we've got another 2 hours after the stage. So tomorrow's just going to be a massive day. Like, yeah.
That's a monster.
Yeah. It's going to be nearly 4 hours in the bus on top of 230 kilometers. Yeah.
That's nuts. And you do a circuit at the end. So if they actually really wanted to, they could cut one of those circuits out and shorten things a little bit, didn't they? Because I think you'll cut three times on the finishing circuit to take it out to 230 Ks after all those transfers. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Chop it. That's what they should do. Yeah. And obviously, what's the conversation going on with you guys in the bunch? I'm sure you'd be happy with this one if it comes out that way. But the Stelvio, in a couple of days, they've got to go over the top of the Stelvio. It's already snowing up there at the moment. What are they going to do there? Do you expect them to be able to complete that stage the way they want to or not?
I reckon he might have frozen. You look at the...
Oh, we have. We've lost him, yeah. Yeah.
It's a prickly question. No, that's all right. If Miles' internet's cut out there, there's not much we can do.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see if he
jumps
comes
back on. We'll see if he jumps back on.
Yeah.
But, hey, great of him to do that anyway in the middle of, okay, it's the rest day, but there's still all the stress and everything that goes on 2 weeks in. So I really appreciate the fact that he came on. It's great.
Oh, he's got a bit of spark too. I loved his recap of the stages and talking about the potential biffo and showing maturity too. Because John, if that was you, it would have been right and left hooks. It would have been like that Barreto fight. Remember that year, Scotty, when they disconnected the wheel?
We got the wheel, yes, with Rui Costa. Rui Costa didn't know what was going on. Barreto was going nuts.
Bring back the biff, I reckon. It's all for entertainment. Miles is disconnected now, so his connection's completely gone kaput. So anyway,
if he comes back in, we'll bring him back in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Unpacking the Giro, fellas. Teo, how do you pronounce his name, Scooter?
Gegenhardt,
that's it.
Yeah.
Great win. But the big talking point from an Aussie perspective is this man, Jai Hindley, sensational. He's third on GC now. I had a look on Cycling News. I can't work it out. How is he third on GC, 2 minutes 56 seconds behind, but he's 4 seconds off Gogehagen in young riders?
It can't be correct. Can't be correct.
Misprint. When I looked at it, he's still sitting second, but behind Almeida
That makes sense.
Teo is the second behind him. So yeah, so obviously he's
Right.
still the young rider in the pink jersey. And he lost a little bit of time yesterday, the tour leader, but he held on. He was okay. He got into his rhythm and fought back and still holds the jersey now, but only 15 seconds. But showing some courage. He didn't just completely capitulate like the guys like Nibali.
It was great.
It was good, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was great. But I think that showed us that he's not going to win this Giro, because that was a tough stage. We've got another 3 of them to come this week. I think Kelderman's going to win it myself. But while we're just going back to talk about the Aussies, it was an Aussie day. We had Rowan Dennis in the break. And not only in the break, he rode away from the break. And if they, most days that would have had a bit more time. He needed a couple more minutes, and he would have won the stage because he was right away. But just a couple of minutes short of enough time to do that, and they caught him on the final climb. And then Chris Hamilton, who was doing a brilliant job on the front for Sunweb, set such a pace that he actually, I think you'll find that Almeida actually got dropped when Chris was on front, even before Jai Hindley hit the front. So then you had Chris doing the work, and then Jai hit the front 6.5K to go, and just everyone gets spat out the back other than Gegenhardt and his team leader Kelderman. So it's a super performance.
Sunweb did a really good behind-the-scenes video of last night's stage. Let's have a look.
We need to try to make sure that the GC group is going for the stage win. There'll be other teams have the same interest. I think NTT for sure will be looking to do that. So I imagine once the race is under control, that also an NTT may look to start riding already to make sure the breakaway is not going to go to the finish. Keep an eye on how Almeida is. Then when the time comes, bang.
Shave. Bang.
Shave. Yep, Almeida completely on the limit. Pozzovivo's also dropped. Fuguzang also dropped. Nibali's also dropping.
Luke, you want me to continue?
Keep going or jump? Jump. Jai, try to jump if you can. Jump, get a gap, force the others to chase.
Almeida's dropping.
Okay, go, let's go.
Okay, go, guys, let's go. Almeida's dropping. Come on, let's go now.
We need enough. Come on, we need 25 seconds. Come on, push.
Come on, guys, you can do this. You can do this, Wilco. Come on, finish it off.
It was good. It was a perfect day by the boys. Like, stuck to the plan, and everyone executed it perfectly. So you can't ask for more than that.
Het coachprogramma. Bedankt. Goed meer doen. Dus het was goed, man. Actually, from the last climb, actually all day we rode in front. Everyone was super strong, and actually I need to follow only my guys. It was crazy what they did today. Also Jai, actually everyone. So it was unbelievable. So strong team.
That is brilliant. Now, I can't imagine Luke Roberts ever being an AFL coach. I can't see him. No, he won't be, because he won't. He won't be jumping up and down. Oh, great.
Oh,
We've
he's
got
back.
Sorry, yeah. With Italian hotel Wi-Fi, it's always a bit of a struggle for these things. Sorry, cut out like that. We've got a few more minutes though before You have to head off right in with the group so we can finish up.
I have to get in a common question that we're asking all Aussie riders. What's your plan at the end of the year? Because there's a lot of talk that a lot of the Aussies can't get back for obviously quarantine reasons and so forth. What are your plans? And have you heard anything more about if races like Tour Down Under is something that the team's keen to do?
Good question, actually. I mean, probably, yeah, I think the Tour Down Under now, my team has said is most like, well, they don't know the full extent, but at this stage it won't be an obligatory World Tour race. So I think my team have already said they won't go, which is, yeah, I don't know if it's meant to come out, but that's not a surprise for a French team, to be honest, if they don't have to go all the way to Australia. So probably will stay in Europe because, yeah, it's been a long, stressful year. I don't really want to spend two weeks of the off season doing a quarantine. I guess now the best thing is going to be focused for next year, but I think it's going to be pretty boring off season. I mean, the bars and restaurants are all closed back in Catalonia now. You know, I keep myself occupied when I'm at home, but yeah, I was looking to enjoy a bit this year. Last year I spent the off season at a knee reconstruction, so I was on the couch most of it, and probably be on the couch again for this one.
Different reason.
Have no advantage. Hey, I've got a question for you, mate. So for people at home that are listening, usually, and things are changing a little bit now, but normally the large chainring on a standard race bike is a 53-tooth chainring. Now, to win the national championships a couple of years ago, you decided to whack on the 54 to have a bigger gear for the downhill run-in to Buninyong, and you attacked at the right time, used the bigger gear to get the win. Have you actually put on a 54 since then? Are you doing that during the Giro or not?
Well, actually, it's a good thing because coming from, say, on a 23, it was like, 54 chainring. I barely have used a 53 this year. I think I have not had a 53 on my bike. These lead outs, always with the 54, and if it's quick, I even put 55. So
whoa,
wow, yeah, done a couple on the 55. I don't really like the 55 though, because if you've got a long stage, it's a bit with the bigger than your big chain rings 55. You're always in and out the big run. It's not the best, but sometimes it's needed. I've done a couple this year. We had just a really quick run in where I had to use 55. But yeah, here always 54 on mountain days just to speed up a bit on the downhill. Yeah, it's always
strong 54. Like bull.
You bloody softies. Yeah. We used to have a 56, but then again, we only had a 12. We never had 11.
Yeah.
I've heard stories from you, John, saying that you only had 13s and you wanted to.
13, but the last couple of years we got the 12. Yes, but I didn't beat the Fleming because that's right. I only had the 13. You did right, Scotty.
Hey, Stuart asked a question. With Aussie podiums and Grand Tours as scarce as hen's teeth over the years, are we looking at 2 in a row this year with Richie and now Jai? Can Jai hang on in the last week given the TT towards the end? What do you think, Miles?
I mean, you guys see more of the racing than me. I mean, these mountain days, I don't even know what's going on. Watching the highlights on the bus after stage yesterday, and it's pretty impressive how Jai and Chris Hamilton are riding. And yeah, I think Jai's in 3rd now, but the way they're going, I mean, last week it was so hard where you see this guy being flying from the start like Armenia. If he really cracks and they really crack him, who knows? Like Jai could move up into 2nd. That's what I'm thinking. I think he could only improve his place from here. I'm thinking looking at yesterday that there could be a Sunweb 1-2 with Kelderman and Jai, but we'll see.
Could be a Bernardino Greg LeMond situation. They just start flicking each other the last couple of days. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on the show, mate. You got a lot of support back home, and you're very mature. The way you handled that potential biffo after the finish was something that our old mate John Trevorrow wouldn't have done. So hats off to you, mate.
And Miles, if you want to send some Cheerios to anyone special back home, now's the time, pal.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks everyone for the support, and yeah, pleasure to come on the show and chat a little bit.
All the best,
Great
mate.
stuff. Great
Brilliant,
stuff,
buddy.
mate.
Thanks,
Go
Miles.
on, Miles.
Thanks.
Cheers,
Good luck
mate.
for the rest.
See you guys. Bye.
See you, mate.
Tough couple
What
of
a
days,
legend.
Miles. Yeah, tough couple of days to get through to the next and final sprint stage, with the final stage in Milan being a time trial. It's only one more sprint stage, but all the sprinters have to get over the bergs before they get to it. So, yeah,
And
tough couple of days.
yeah, add the transfers into that. I mean, what a
It's
pain in
nuts,
the
isn't it?
ass. Yeah, what a pain in the ass. Hey, one thing that you sent me, Scotty, was how good is Europe when it comes to a good plane show? You know,
Yes.
it always seems like the Tour and the Giro go head to head, and who's got the bigger planes, who's got more smoke. Here's a good video I flogged off Twitter, which was the Giro plane show before the start yesterday. I was just thinking that apologies to anyone that's listening to this as an audio podcast, because it was 30 seconds of just that scene there was more tailored, obviously, for YouTube.
Very nice,
Well,
though. If you were listening,
That
it was
just
beautiful.
shows the people listening on podcasts, and thank you very much. You better jump on YouTube and have a look at that, because you're missing a lot of great stuff.
Now, is there anything else you want to add for the Giro before we move on to our sponsors? And
Just interesting what Miles just said about Jai, who has been riding really well. It had to have been almost perfect storm for him not to have to dig real deep at some stage. He's going to have to use a lot of pennies at some stage, I would think. I could see a Nibali or someone like that coming good, getting up the road, and even all the other teams are doing a really good job, Chris Hamilton and the others, at some stage or other. If Kelderman doesn't need Miles, Jay to do a big, I'll be amazed. He'll have to dig in big time, which will probably affect his chance of getting on the podium. And I don't think that's what he's there for right now. It's just turned out that way, and great if he can. But I'd be very surprised if he doesn't have to use a lot of his ability at some stage to save the race for Kelderman.
I totally agree with you, Johnny. What I did notice from the stage last night was that Kelderman was happy just to follow, with Jai riding tempo all the way up, and Teo, following him, waiting just for the sprint. He wasn't really looking to gain time; he just wanted to win the stage. Whereas Wilco was trying to get time, but didn't go over the top of Jai until inside the last 500 metres, which basically indicates that Jai was setting such a good tempo that Wilco was happy just to follow, because otherwise he would have gone. He was going for GC. It wasn't about the stage. So I think Jai's absolutely
John,
motoring.
Have you not learned anything from 2020? Never use the phrase, I'd be very surprised if this is probably going to happen. So,
it'll definitely happen now. For sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Nibali and Pozzovivo was the other one we expected to attack. And they lost. It was a minute 36 from Nibali and a minute 54 from Pozzovivo. So they're well down, but they're not going to stop. If they've got some legs, they'll keep trying, that's for sure.
It's going to be a cracking last week. And obviously, with all these climbs that are covered in snow, there's going to be drama every night. And we've got the bloody Vuelta starting tomorrow. Like, if you're into your bikes, it's just a smorgasbord. And if we had
Miles'
Bay,
brother, Miles' brother Callum, I think, is starting the Vuelta for Mitchelton.
Oh, yeah, awesome.
There you go.
We'll have to chat to him as well. All right, John, now the time has arrived. Mitchelton Wines.
The beautiful Mitchelton Hotel in the wonderful Goulburn Valley, overlooking the Goulburn River, just set in the most gorgeous spot of Victoria. So as you can see, that view there shows us the hotel. You've got all the other great clips ready to clip in shortly, haven't you, Dan? You said you were going to do that.
I had a busy day, mate.
Okay. So that view you get from those hotel rooms right across the front there, that looks out over the pool and then right out to the Goulburn River. On the other side, you look out over the beautiful bushland and also onto the Goulburn River, which snakes right around the property. Up on the big spire there, you can look out over the beautiful view of the whole Goulburn Valley. You see quite a way. You can probably see 100 and something kilometres into the Strathbogies one side, almost to Shepparton on the other side. And then you go down in the lift to the amazing Aboriginal Art Gallery, which is just staggering, world class. Just outside into the cellar door where you can book a wine tasting and get into some of those magnificent wines. There's a wonderful, the Heathcote Shiraz is my favourite, but there's also a sparkling Shiraz, which is I didn't know I'd like it so much, but I've gave it a bit of a nudge again last night, actually.
Well, if it's wet, it's a good start.
It's alcoholic. You're into it, Johnny.
And then, of course, there's the beautiful Muse restaurant, which, as I say, you can explore the seasonal menu with wines perfectly paired. And I was just in there a couple of weeks ago, and as I think I mentioned earlier, I had a kangaroo tartare, which was hoppingly good. Yeah, Joe. I jumped right into it, as you might say. Sorry, guys. And then there's the day spa. You can jump in and quiet the mind, unwind the body, rediscover your balance after a few reds in a setting of peace and harmony.
Can I just say,
I want you to go up there, nothing will.
Yeah, can I just say, honestly, if I closed my eyes then, I would have thought that was Morgan Freeman doing that.
Oh, yeah.
It was just incredible. Yeah, with the conversation. Yeah. Oh, Dan, have you got those bit? No, you haven't. Okay, right, I'll keep going. Okay, Morgan.
Yeah. All right, I'll definitely have some new photos of Mifflin Winery tomorrow. And could you say the same thing every time? I need to get ones of the restaurant. I need to get ones of the massage and the relaxation therapy. I need to get ones of the Aboriginal art gallery. Yes, and the Goulburn Valley. I need some chopper shots. I got my work cut out.
You mentioned snakes. You did mention snakes, didn't you? Oh, no, there are snakes around. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. All right, here's quick words from our great mates at Bike Exchange.
Look at this bike. You think it's just a bike, right? But it's not. It's a bike. 374 people are looking at. This guy, this girl, them, all looking at it. People from here, there, and wherever this is. People that are looking for a bike. Or just a piece of it. Amateurs, semi-amateurs, and pro-amateurs. This guy wants this bike, but with this crank and these bars. This could be the perfect match. But not this one. This girl has a bike to sell, and thousands of people might purchase it. Eyes on Bikes help grow small businesses. His, hers, yours, and the latest data and insights help those businesses keep moving. We are the world's #1 bike marketplace, with over 500,000 products and 900 brands, where buyers and sellers are brought together in a place where a bike is never just a bike. Bike Exchange, where the world buys, sells, learns, and rides.
Thanks again to our great mates at Bike Exchange. Now, Tour of Flanders. It was unbelievable event. We said before the start it was probably going to be a battle between the three big guns, Van der Poel, Wout van Aert, and obviously Alaphilippe. Turned out to be that way, but obviously there was going to be drama. Now, just before the Alaphilippe crash happened, I was talking to Daryl Impey and Bewley, who were sitting back having a few beers. I said to Bewley, hey, wasn't the Kiwi Jesse Sargent, wasn't there a big incident with him this race? He goes, oh, yeah, bro. Well, that pretty much finished his career after that. And I said, geez, it's funny how, particularly 2020, there's always something, dramas or crashes, and literally 2 minutes later, that crash happened. But it was a fantastic battle between Wout van Aert and Van der Poel. Are we going to be looking, Scotty, at this could be the next 10 years, these two just going like Boonen and Cancellara days?
Yeah, I hope so. And look, Remco Evenepoel is going to step up as well in, maybe not the Flanders style races, but he's another Belgian that's going to be thrown in the mix. Maybe Hershey will come into the mix with these guys. But they are just sensational. They're really vibrant. Their bike handling skills as former cyclocross riders, it's just fantastic to watch. And while Mathieu came away with the win this time, it was 1986 that his father won Tour of Flanders. Now, that year he also finished second in Liège-Bastogne-Liège and third in Paris-Roubaix, so a great year for him. But to bring it back to us, John, in 1988, he was third in Flanders. That was the year that he won Liège-Bastogne-Liège Artie van der Poel. He was seventh in Milan-San Remo, but he also won the Herald Sun Tour, which, of course, you won, and we're both race directors of. So that's our little connection. I've got to bring it back around somehow.
Yeah.
But the rivalry, because they're also, like Boonen and Cancellara, they got on pretty well. And the rivalry these guys had from cyclocross that they've brought across into the road. And in cyclocross, there's been so many battles between them where it's been literally, banging shoulders, to get into to corners, jumping off the bike, running up through the mud, banging each other again. So, they've really locked horns a lot through the cyclocross world, and they're doing the same on the road. As long as they keep it civil, it's going to be fantastic for the fans.
Well, he was quite emotional after the finish of the race. We've got a clip of that.
Afstand! Afstand! Ja! Oh, maar jongen! Pik hem bal, jongen, maat. Ik pik hem bal, vriend. Oh, je zet hem aan, jongen.
Wat een sprint. Wat een sprint.
Great stuff. What do you reckon, Iffy?
Amazing. I
Clear the throat.
can't believe that Scotty didn't add the fact that I raced against Adri, and so did Scotty. So that's how long he raced for, how many generations. But
he had a 40-year career. That's why they both raced. He had 20 years as a pro. 81, I think, was his first year, Daft Trucks, and then he finished with Rabobank in 2000, and we both did race against his dad. Yeah. I was only 16 when I raced against him, of course.
Well, here's Van der Poel's post-race interview.
Yeah, it was Alaphilippe who opened the race on the Koppenberg, and then I immediately felt that I had to go with him. And on Tyenberg, it's Van Aert who joins R2, and I think the three strongest guys in the race were in front then, and I knew that was a decisive moment. And Julien had a really unfortunate crash when he touched the motorbike. Yeah, and then I know it was me and Wout till the finish line.
What did happen with the motorbike? You saw a bit?
Yeah, Wout was riding at the front and he tried to stay a bit out of the wind, and he went from the left motor to the right. And I think Julien saw it a little bit too late and he touched the rear of the motorbike.
Take us through this last sprint. That was really tight. I guess lots of emotion.
Yeah, normally I always feel if I win or not, but here, I had to dig so deep in this sprint that I didn't even see if I won or not. And yeah, I know if the speed, when we began the sprint, the speed was not really high and we waited quite long, and then I know my sprint is at my best, so I just had to road my sprint, yeah.
What means this victory for you? That was a...
Yeah, it's incredible to win a Ronde van Vlaanderen. I think it's a childhood dream, and the beginning of the season was not really good for me, and I just kept on working with the team as well, and to finish it off like this, it's amazing.
Yeah, emotional stuff.
Pretty special.
Obviously, the big incident, lads, was the crash, as mentioned, with the motorbike. We've got vision of that as well. Let's watch that and have a chat about what happened.
And every time they try and get organised, and now they'll have to get organised because something has happened with a touch of wheels. Alaphilippe is down, and the race has completely changed complexion again.
Well, this is very dramatic, lying there on the road, no sign of his bike.
The one absolute guarantee with Julian Alaphilippe is drama. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. This, in cycling terms, is disaster.
Well, clutching his right elbow there and really moaning in pain.
These two just have to get on with the race. It looks like his shoulder's out, righty.
Oh, no. So he's run into the back of the motorbike. Hit with his right shoulder, and you're right, he may have dislocated his right shoulder, the way he's impacted it.
Yeah, obviously shocking stuff. What was your takeaways from that? I mean, was obviously the motorbike? I mean, those sort of incidents, they do those 100 times in terms of slowing down, pulling to the right. Who's fully at fault there, lads?
Interesting one, isn't it? I mean, if you could lay fault at anyone, I suppose Alaphilippe ran into the back of it. He should have been looking where he was going. But it's a whole combination of things. Those motorbikes are coming forward and back all the time, and they do go to the edge. The motorbike rider, there was two bikes. The one he actually ran into was behind another one. So he couldn't just suddenly think they're coming close. But Van Aert sort of used it as a bit of protection, sort of ran close to it and out. Not that I think for 1 second he had in his mind one of the guys had run into it, but he just used it. And, you know, if any of the other two guys had been in the same position as Alaphilippe, they probably wouldn't have hit it. But Alaphilippe, it's just what he's like. He's always jumping around, looking around. He's just a bumblebee, and he's just fractions.
The motorbike driver's come out and made a statement, and he says, "I feel terrible." Yeah, no shit.
He does not feel as bad as Julian Alaphilippe. I can guarantee you that.
And Lefebvre wanted blood. Don't worry about that.
Oh, yeah. Alaphilippe's, he's probably medicated at the moment, so he's probably feeling okay. Look, there's actually a lot going on here. So the motorbike that he ran into was the race jury, so race commissaire, motorcycle commissaire. The motorbike that was in front of him that you mentioned, John, that was Moto Neutral Service. And they'd assessed the racing situation. The gap hadn't opened enough to the chase group for the cars to come in. It was still very close. So they did the right thing by putting the motorcycle commissaire and the motorcycle neutral race support in behind to make sure that the guys trying to win the race are going to be serviced. If there's a mechanical, their team cars would have been two groups behind. So if they had a flat tyre at that point, they're definitely going to be out of the race. So they did the right thing with that. But when they chose to go back, you notice that the road was on a slight right-hand bend.
Yes.
In Europe, when you're coming back to do a situation like that, where they're coming back, whether you're in the convoy as a car or whatever, you do actually slow down the right-hand side. Everybody has to go around the left. In Australia, it's the opposite. You slow down on the left and everyone has to come around the right side. But they chose to do that on a slight right-hand bend. So they've taken the short part of the corner, which the guys are always going to try and cut that anyway. And then on closer inspection, you had Alaphilippe sitting in third wheel. He's not going to do a turn now for a little bit because Matthew's going to be the next one to go through after Wout pulls off. So he then went to his radio to talk to his team. So you put all those things together, and at that moment, that's when, look, because Matthew himself almost hit the bike because he was following Wout. He wasn't expecting anything else to be there, and he was surprised by seeing the motorbike because I think he just slowed down too quickly and did the right thing by the regulations by coming back on the right-hand side, but it was a right-hand bend, for Christ's sake. Go across to the left where there's more space and then slow down on that side. So I think it was the motorcycle rider's fault. They were trying to do the right thing, but they just stuffed it up.
I get what you're saying. The only thing, when you look at it, why wouldn't they have just pulled over and stopped for a second? Get off the road for a second. That would be the easiest thing. Don't worry about going the other side. Just pull off the bitumen, let them go by, and then jump in behind them. That would have been the smartest thing to do, actually.
Yeah. And I'm sure they're experienced. It's the Ronde van Vlaanderen, for Christ's sake. So obviously the officials and the neutral race support have experienced motorbike riders and support crew. But in this case, it was just the wrong time, the wrong thing that happened at the wrong time.
Well, it is a lot. Oh, sorry, mate. You got nothing.
We've got a few comments coming in. Yeah. Check the moto's brake lights. Crash for cash from King.
Possibly.
Vazzy, he says, has Alaphilippe been cursed with the rainbow bands? He's certainly had a bad run since winning. He chopped someone 1 week. I mean,
Well, he celebrated too early. Celebrated just early enough, and now he's come crashing down. So you could be right, Vazzy. He could be that terrible curse. But I've got a little story for you, fellas. looking back through the records today of Tour of Flanders, because anyone who's lived any time in Belgium knows how big this race is. And we touched on it last night with Alan Piper, who tried to explain. He called it like Australia Day, but it's as big as the Melbourne Cup to the Belgians. And the one thing about Belgium, when we talk cycling, is the biggest sport in Belgium. Well, in Flanders, it's even bigger again. And if you go into a pub in Belgium, which I happen to do once or twice, the conversation, like you go into a pub in Melbourne, especially around inner Melbourne, Collingwood, Richmond, they're all talking football. When you walk into a pub in Belgium, especially in Flanders, in Ghent, they're talking bikes. And they are knowledgeable, like the footy fans we've got, they're like that with the bikes. They know every bike rider, they know every race. And so the Tour of Flanders, there's 1 million people come out to watch it. Well, they didn't have that this time because there were no people out there. But it is a huge event. So I started looking at some of the history going back. And there's only 2 classics that Aussies have never won. And that's a Tour of Flanders and a Giro di Lombardy. And we've ran second in both, but we haven't won either one of them. But in 1919, there was a guy named Van Leberge. He was a Belgian, and he lined up and he told everyone he would just try and follow his wheel. He'll drop you off at your different houses, but he was going to win alone. And he wasn't the biggest star of the time, so everyone just laughed at him. And off he rode, and they never saw him again. It used to take over 12 hours back then, the Tour of Flanders. And his manager started to worry he couldn't find him. So he finally found him in a pub having a beer. And he dragged him. I've got plenty of time. So he dragged him out of the pub and made him ride on to the finish. And he still won by 14 minutes. And he told all the fans to go home. He said, you might as well go home now. They're hours away. But they were 14 minutes away.
That sounds of the days when they used to jump on trains and all this sort of stuff to get an advantage.
Piano wire stories.
I don't know. Well, anyway, it's there. It's a great story. You can Google it. I only found it myself today. It's a lovely story.
Classic. We've got another good point. Do you think Matteo will go to a world team?
Isn't that interesting? Because he won, the biggest race in Belgium. He's Dutch, of course, but it's still very important for them. He won Amstel last year, riding for a second division team. It's only a matter of time. They're paying him enough money. The team actually weren't that bad. They were very strong. They had several riders up in the mix right towards the end. So they're riding above themselves, but they are second division. At some point, clearly, someone's going to have to pay him enough money to have him stop doing cyclocross, focusing on the road, and really throwing a few million euros at him for sure.
I think it'll go the other way, actually. I think because they've got a couple of big sponsors in that team, I reckon his team will step up to World Tour. I think Albertson will put some more money in. They used to be, one of the biggest sponsors in the World Tour anyway. With their a beer flavored shampoo or something.
No,
like
caffeine.
That.
Caffeine.
Caffeine. Oh, sorry, not beer. Okay.
Yeah,
well, it's meant to regrow your hair, but I can tell you it doesn't work. I tried
you tried?
Yeah, I tried it. They gave out 3 bottles at Down Under. It didn't work.
I reckon that they'll step up to World Tour next year.
Mm. Now, on the women's race, chapeau to Chantal Vanderbroek /Black. She won with a late attack and gapped them and won by a minute. But Aussie Sarah Roy, Scotty, finished in 5th in the bunch kick with Aussie Grace Brown and Van Vleuten. Van Vleuten obviously tried to break away in the final stages there, but just didn't have the legs compared to the winner.
No, another good ride by Sarah, 4th at Gent-Wevelgem last week as well. So good rides by her, finishing off the season. It was also the last race for their teammate Grace Brown. Gracie Elvin. So Gracie Elvin now goes into
she's not
retirement.
doing the pun.
Well, what I saw was them.
That was
Sarah actually saying, so apparently going by social media, that was the last one.
Right. Okay.
And interestingly, so they went on to the Haute Clermont. And the lead group, rode up. There was no sort of harsh attacks, but they were riding solid tempo up there. And then Chantal, when they got over the steepest part on the flatter section, it's still sort of gradual all the way up to the very top. And that's where she hit them. And, so I guess everyone was sort of cautious about the real steep section of the cobbles on the Haute Clermont. And then she just went whack along the top of it, got the gap, And that was it. She was home and hose. And finally, we got someone that's at least 30 winning a race now, because it's all kids that are out there doing it. So Chantel comes along at 30. No surprise, though. Like we were talking about Van der Breggen and Van Vleuten as the outright favourites. They marked each other out a couple of times through the race. But Chantel is a teammate of Van der Breggen. But hey, it's no surprise. She won the World Championships in 2017. She's also won Gent-Wevelgem. She's won Amstel Gold Race as well. So absolute quality rider and a worthy winner of the Ronda for the ladies.
Now, Kirsty Baxter had some breaking news. Big news in women's peloton. It's a Cycling Tips article, but Jumbo-Visma to launch women's team in 2021.
Fantastic news.
Good to
That's
hear.
sensational. Yeah.
Huge. And with the success they've
exciting.
had. Yeah. And they should have the cashola. You know, they'd have a pretty big budget as well, so that's great.
They've got a huge budget.
I've got another comment.
Yep.
Ryan McMillan, why aren't the bikes expected to maintain a minimum distance at all times? The owner should come back onto the bike.
No.
Motos, yeah.
No, I think I don't. That bubble in the race itself doesn't mean anything for the actual cyclists. Of course, they're all next to each other. That's what the bubble's about. We're accepting them as part of a group that can come together, and the motorbikes are all part of that bubble. So there's, but I hope he's right. If they had a meter matters, you wouldn't have ran into the back of it.
Yeah, and a couple of other comments. Kirsty obviously said Heathcote Shiraz is a ripper iffy, and Ryan McMillan says can't unsee iffy in the day spa. And Kirsty also said Marianne Vos is the main rider. So
and she didn't ride Flanders, so her team. Actually, CCC put out a statement before Flanders to say that she wasn't in good enough form. So that's why she didn't ride, which was quite bizarre. I haven't heard exactly what that meant. She was riding up to that.
It meant she's leaving to go to another team.
Yeah, I think so now. Yeah, well done, KB. Thanks for that info.
That old chestnut.
Well, and the Dutch, it's great that they can split them all up too, because there's so many good Dutch riders. Obviously, Van Vleuten at Mitchelton and Van der Breggen and Van der Broek Black at Borsdormen. So good to have another team in the mix and making sure that they don't all end up in one team, so we can really spread the love, because the Dutch have absolutely slaughtered the women's peloton over the last few years.
Now, before we go, we should have a look at the Vuelta. It obviously starts tomorrow. I was having a look at the overall prices. Roglic on top, Dumoulin, Buckman, Carapaz. What are your expectations for this one, boys?
Be more unpredictable than anything we've had in this incredibly unpredictable year.
Yeah.
I like Dumoulin. I just reckon he will come into. I think Roglic might. He didn't have much time off. He won Liège, best on Liège, fantastic. And I don't know that he'll be able to come through it all again after the drama of that Tour de France. But he's a superstar. I just like Dumoulin.
Yep.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't have to go to the toilet, then he should be fine. He should be able to go on.
Yeah, exactly.
Super unpredictable, guys. I'm actually, I enjoy watching the Vuelta. You know, I probably shouldn't say more than the Tour, but just its unpredictability every year. Typically, the sprinter stages are incredibly unpredictable. I've said that a few times now, but because they don't go there with their full lead-out trains. You know, it's basically the third Grand Tour of every year. This is the one that guys get a bit of a last chance at. They don't go there with a sprinter in a particular team and, a bunch of lead-out guys. Same for the GC guys. And it's been such a fascinating race to watch for the last 10 years. This year, it's going to be even more so. We're not even knowing how far it's going to get with everything that's happening in Spain at the moment. But look, I hope Roglic can step up and get that win that he didn't get at the Tour de France. I know he won this last year, but so it's only a consolation for him. But he seems like a nice guy.
Oh, definitely. Now, it's been a massive episode. We've put the old podcast fishing rod out there. So hopefully we've got a couple of good guests line up over the next couple of days. I'm going to try and get Adam Blythe on. Phil Liggett's done a bit of Gary groundwork there, and he's agreed. But we'll have to give him a couple of days' notice. He's really good on the GCN commentary. Heard him last night. Just gives that fresh insight, very knowledgeable, but he's also got a good sense of humour. And as you know, Scotty, in that commentary, you need to have that sort of balance, don't you?
I think so. And the cycling commentary for English speaking in particular has evolved over the years. Look, I remember Dave Duffield doing Eurosport years ago on his own, every race. And we'd get to, I remember there was a classic, it might have been Gent Wevelgem, and they went under 1K to go. You could see the helicopter shot. And he started talking about his time when he first saw cycling, watching the jolly old Giro d'Italia. And they came through the town where he was stationed in the army and I'm thinking, you're inside 1K to go. And now you're talking about when you saw cycling for the first time, commentate the bloody race. It was so frustrating. But they've evolved so much. There's a plethora of commentators now.
You've reminded me of a story there, Scotty. I met David Duffield on the Tour de France, and he was good friends with the O'Grady's, with Stewie's mum and dad, who were travelling with me. And I said, because he's got a wonderful voice, a bit like Phil Liggett, a great voice, but didn't know as much about cycling. And he was very much into the roses and the chateaus and all of that, more than the bike race. And I sort of said to him, oh, well, what's your background? He said, I was 14 times national champion. I said, oh, really? I didn't realise that. In what discipline? He said, yes, time on a tricycle. He used to race a tricycle, which was a form of the sport. They used to have time trials on tricycles. And I thought, of course you were.
Of course. Now it all makes sense. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. But Adam, and I was listening to Adam as well, and they have a revolving door, in their commentary. Often with the Eurosport and GCN commentators, they'll have multiple commentators come in.
Giddy doing that, wouldn't they?
True. No, but it's like the cricket. Like the cricket, in Australia, they don't just have the same commentators the whole way through. They'll bring in fresh voices, and it brings in fresh opinions. It also gives an opportunity to get some insight, some latest information. Come and bring that in as well. Adam was really good. Although I've warmed to Carlton Kirby, who also doesn't know a lot about cycling, but he's very enthusiastic, and I'm always waiting to hear sort of some of the funny stuff he's going to say. And I just cannot wait for Sean Kelly when the race gets to 33 kilometres to go, because I just love listening to say 33 to go.
So that sounds a bit like our show with the revolving door that we have, because we've had different people come out. So don't let that door hit you on the way out, Scotty.
Fair enough.
Hey, Samantha Ince says, is Chavez riding GC or stage wins? We're going to get Matt Wilson. Well, we tried to get Matt Wilson on. He's actually in the directors' meeting at the moment. So he sent a photo.
Should be perfect time. Perfect time.
I reckon old Shaves will have a go for GC. I reckon.
Oh, why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
If ever, this is the time.
And I sent out a cast a line for Matt Rendell for tonight's show. I've sent him a message on Twitter. I said, mate, you got 3 minutes if you want to jump on. And I got a message from him half an hour ago, so there was a few cross wires there. But he may or may not come on in the next 2 minutes. Have you got any other stories just as a gap filler, lad?
We've got a million stories, mate. A million. Have you told the mechanic story, Johnny, when you may or may not have been having a cigarette? Have you told that one in the pool?
Well, I think I have, but we can always tell it again. There was a Tour of Mexico.
Because you mentioned Tour of Mexico the other day. So is this that same when you saw Eddie Merckx do the hour record?
Yes, it was. It was. And so the race started in Puerto Vallarta, which is on the coast in the Gulf there, which is famous where the Love Boat calls in. There was definitely no Love Boat then when we were there, but we were staying in this amazing condo, so I'd never seen one before. So we'd flown into Mexico City, then flown down to Puerto Vallarta for the start, and we were laying around the pool. I was actually laying in the pool on a sort of floating lilo thing with a beer going and a little cigarette going, and then the Italian team arrived and started talking to the boys, and I'm yelling out from putting my 2 pennies worth in from the pool, and one of them said to Clyde, "Hey, your mechanic, he has a good time. Clyde said, no, it's not the mechanic. That's the Australian road champion.
I like how you said having a little cigarette. Like you were you didn't want to admit that it was just a normal size cigarette.
Well, no, I thought it might have been a cigar. I thought it might have been a cigar, but when I think back now, I was on the cigarettes at that stage, not the cigars. Yeah.
Did you feel when you used to smoke the lungers and you're riding, like surely you felt the effects on the bike? Like
no, I never smoked them while I was riding. I had them straight after, but not while I was actually riding.
No, I get that, but I'm saying, do you understand the effects of cigarette smoke? Like, surely after a while, you would have felt that it was affecting your lung capacity. No.
Yes, I probably did.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have
I had when we did our Olympic testing, when we went to Munich, we had the whole Munich team of all sports had to do these tests. Tony was doing it for the cycling, but it was being done by every sport. For some records or whatever. So we're all doing all of these tests and whatever. And I had a little bit of
VO2 max test.
Well, it was the version of a VO2 max test now, but a bit more other stuff in there. But and I remember I had a bit of an injury, so I wasn't quite as fit as I should have been. But there were guys who had lower heart rates and whatever. But I had a very high, one of the highest lung capacities of the whole Olympic team, and I had the quickest, according to Dr. Hoyne, return back to resting pulse rate of the whole Olympic team, not just the cycling. He said the whole Olympic team. So I must have been lucky to have very big lungs. So I probably damaged 20% of it, but I actually had big ones to start.
Had a bit to spare. But no, you know what? The other thing, let's not, we don't want to talk about drinking and smoking, all these sorts of things. But hey, that was the era. That's what, people didn't really understand nutrition and those things quite as much as we do now. But John, is it true that you have never had a hangover?
I used to say that, and maybe it's old age or being crook recently. I've had a couple of what you probably would call hangovers in the last couple of years. So, but in the early days, never had a hangover. No.
Yeah. So, I find that fascinating because it's like, okay, Usain Bolt's the fastest man on the planet, right? So someone has to be the fastest. Someone has to be the best climber. And there are people, say, such as yourself, that can just absorb the toxins of alcohol or cigarette smoke, etc., and disperse it and get rid of it without the effects that so many other people have. And I think maybe someone like an Eddie Merckx, probably could have drank a lot as well. His body just would have absorbed it. And Grand Tour riders are those sorts of special people that just seem to recover quicker than everybody else. They're just, elite humans, better than others.
I think that accounts for when I was young, we used to catch snakes, and I got bitten by a snake, and the snake died. So maybe that
there you go. Hey, it's a superpower, maybe. That's it.
You're Spider-Man, You shouldn't have been the angry ant. You're Snake Man. Colin Morley says, great to hear Dr. Toyne mention big cycling supporter too.
Oh, he was a legend. He was an absolute character. Oh, Doc loved the bikes. He was a sports doctor, but he and the last part of his life, he lived up just out of Noosa, Taunton, a little place around there. I remember going and visiting him there. But he was a big sports doctor, but loved the bikes, and he used to love having a beer with a couple of the old with the Footscray mob as well. He loved to drink, but a legend of a man. Legend of a man.
You were very highly regarded with that 72 team, weren't you, John? So obviously you rode well in the cycling, but it was the chef de mission. Who was the chef de mission? They thought you were very highly regarded.
Now that is a very funny story. Yes. So the chef de mission was Judy Patching. Another legend. He used to had a place just down at Point Lonsdale. Just passed away a couple of years ago, but he was an amazing guy. And I remember we were riding in Munich, and we all got called into a big meeting to tell us that we weren't allowed to have a drink in the village because Australians had such a bad reputation in Munich from the beer festival. We were going to change all of that. So if you wanted a drink, you had to go outside of the Olympic Village. You weren't to have. Okay. So after we walked out of that meeting, I bumped into a couple of Pommy mates from the Commonwealth Games, and I said, "Come in for a beer." I said, "Oh, we're not allowed." Come on. So I said, so I got right round the corner to have this quiet drink with them. And Judy Patching walked past. I didn't allow for the mirrors. He looked in the mirror, saw the green of the Australian jacket, walked in and caught me, see? So I got into trouble. Anyway, a couple of days later, I bumped into a couple
Hang on. How long after that you were told were you in the bar?
Half an hour.
Keep going.
I said, oh, look, is that what that meeting was about? I missed it, So anyway, I got out of jail. So anyway, 2 days later, by this time he'd caught a few others. So he was actually doing a walkthrough. I went in there out of uniform, hid around the corner. I was with a couple of Kiwi mates, and Judy come around, but he remembered my face and said, you again. So I got called back in as I got smacked over the wrist and got a ban for 3 days from going out. And then I got into some other little trouble. Brucey Biddle and Phil Sawyer and myself got into a bit of a rumble in town, so I got into trouble for that. So then when it came to the finish of the games,
so you brush over that, Johnny. You brush over that. A bit of a
what happened there?
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
we'll go on forever. We'll go on forever.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I'd had a couple of visits to the little hospital, and I fell down the stairs was the official report. But anyway, they're a separate story. So anyway, on the last day of the games, the German or Munich municipality put on this big party. And it was a circus, actually. I think the circus or lay type of thing was in town, and they decided to for all the drama that had happened in that games, for all with the shooting, the terrorist attack, was a terrible time. They would let every country invite just 6 people, so the chef de mission and 5 athletes from every country were to go to this special function. And so everyone was wondering who's going to be the Australians, who's going to get the invite. So I got woken up in the morning by our team manager, and he said, "You wouldn't believe it. You've been invited for the cycling to go to this." And so I knew that. So there was Raylene Boyle, there was that young swimmer, what was the name? He won all the gold medals. Shane Gould, yep. So there was the athletes. They were the ones who stood out, the medalists.
Sort of a big name to forget, but keep going.
Yeah. Shane Gould, she was lovely. She's only 16. So anyway, so for cycling, it either had to be Clyde Sefton, John Nicholson, or Danny Clark. They'd all got silver medals. So, and anyway, they picked me, and straight away, our manager said, "You know why he's picked you? Because he couldn't pick between the 3 silver medals, and I think he likes the larrikin, so he's picked you." And I thought, that's not why he's picked me. I knew my name had stuck in his head for the wrong reasons. I didn't say anything, because it was Judy's. No one was to advise you. It was Judy's selection. He just picked the 5. See, so we had to meet at a certain place down underneath in the catacombs. And we're all waiting for Judy to come down. And I'm sitting hiding behind the post. And I remember Raylene saying to me, "How come you're here?" I said, "I've been picked." He said, "Bullshit." I said, "Look, he's stuffed up. I know that. So just don't say anything, all right?" So I'm hiding behind this concrete pillar. So down comes Judy, and the bus pulls up. "Oh, get in the bus." And everyone's talking. And I sort of, last one, sneak on and sit down. And we get about halfway to the event, the circus, and Judy's talking away, and he spots me. He goes, "What are you doing here?" I said, "You invited me, Judy." He went, "Oh, shit," and sort of the light bulb. He realised what he said. "Well, behave yourself." I said, "Okay." So funny finish to that. We're at a function years later, a sports function, big crowd, whatever, and the guest speaker was Judy Patching, and he got up to tell the story of that Munich Olympics, and I jumped up. I said, "I've got to tell the story." So I told that story, and Judy was fantastic, laughed his head off. Yeah, fantastic.
It's not a very common name for a male, Judy.
I think it was Jude. His nickname was Judy. It was actually Jude or something,
Because I've got an auntie Judy. I was like, oh.
Well, we all have.
That's right. Wombat Breath. He says, please, can you try and get Adam Hansen on? We need to honour this special Aussie in potentially his last year. I think that's a good point.
I
think that should be a priority.
Very good idea. Yeah.
All right, we'll leave that up to you, John.
Go fishing. We'll all go fishing on that one. Yeah.
I'm writing that one down right now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, no sign of Matt Randell. I probably should have given him more notice, so that's my bad. Used the wrong bait for my hook. So I'll work on that. But
Good
we
man,
will
too.
get him.
Good
We
man.
will get
Yeah,
him. That wraps up a pretty big show. We'll be back again 7:30 this time. We'll be 7:30 every night until the AFL Grand Final, which is next Saturday. We'll have to pre-record that one. Priorities, guys. Priorities. But thanks for all your comments. Make sure you like and subscribe on iTunes, and also make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Tick all the notifications so that you get notified when we do go live. So we'll see you tomorrow to preview the Vuelta and preview the next stage of the Giro.